All right, we're about to get started. Hang in there. Hit the like, share the show, everybody, if you could. There we go. Thank you, Allison. Yes. Still waiting on our first guest to come in. But I think we can get jumping fairly quickly. Almost there. Getting very, very close. Very, very close. Oh, here we go. Sorry. 3, getting ready. We're so close. Go to me and go ahead and go back to live mode and hit. Let's just go here and then bring me in. And then, oh, there's the other alarm going off. I'm all business this morning. There's so much stuff going on. By the way, welcome chat room to the show. Oh, I've got a little seam over there. That got to fix that. There's going to be a lot of little moving parts going on. Bink. Hopefully that gets rid of that. Yes? No? Maybe not. This business right here. All right, so I have to zoom myself in clearly. That, huh? How you like that? Hey, look at that. Oh, thank you very much. Hit the like, share the show. It's House Sparks Mornings, Mega Worldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. There's so much news to cover that it's almost embarrassingly. It's like I feel like the news today is like trying to describe the ingredients of a smoothie in their original form to a person who's never had a smoothie. So not just, and I don't mean just there was once ice and raspberries and some sort of coconut milk or whatever your choice is. Please put it in the chat room. What's your smoothie of choice? I have history with peach pleasure at at Jamba Juice, but the razzmatazz, was kind of the '90s for me. But like, imagine having to explain also the additives and the vitamins and where they were sourced from in the process, right? Vanilla, good way to go. I gotta say, William, way to stand up for vanilla. Vanilla, by the way, is not plain. Vanilla is a flavor distinct in and of itself. It's also if you take a high enough dose, a controlled substance. It is a mind-altering drug. You can OD on vanilla. So I take great offense as being as a vanilla American that vanilla gets written off as just plain. Yes, vanilla. It's not just a sex thing anymore. Thank you for noticing. Ice, mixed berries, vanilla, or plain Greek yogurt, banana, spinach, or orange juice. There you go. And real is spendy. That's true, because it's something worth having. Fire and gas melted ice on my driveway. Well, that'll do it. Beaten carrot with wheat gas chaser. Chris wins the hippie award this morning. Beet and carrot with a wheatgrass chaser. Whew. You're definitely firing on all cylinders with that one. You're clearing the ducts. Gotcha. Okay, cool. And Chic Canfora will be joining us in about 5 minutes or so. Obviously, one of the big parts of the news is that, and I don't know how many times do I have to just tell everybody this is what's going to happen. I think the most irritating part of the news cycle right now is everybody being stunned at what's going on. Like, oh my God, can you believe? Yes, of course I can believe it, dipshit. Yes. My question is, how could you believe it wasn't going to be like this? Yes? How is there any surprise? Trump's flipping off a worker who calls him a pedo protector. The only surprise in that situation is not that the president of the United States flipped off somebody and told him to fuck off because his brain is tapioca and he thinks he's got the same responsibilities as a fucking live streamer. Right? But the shocking part, in many ways, the surprising part was that somebody yelled at him. The guy's been put on leave. Bless his heart. He's got a GoFundMe. I'll see if I can find the link for it. But I just thought Trump would change. Yes. Everyone, we're all Susan Collins now. Is that how this works? Jesus Christ. Hold on. Why is that? There we go. That was weird. Let's see. Thank you very much. Oh, my sound effects are turned up quite a bit right now as well. Obviously, and again, this is all about distractions from the Epstein files. This is all about that. Because again, think of Dave Smith and Tucker Carlson and all these, and Candace Owens and even Nick Fuentes turning on Donald Trump and the people they represent within the movement. Think about the volume of those people and that they are statistically important to any kind of a Republican win, not just in the midterms, but in the future. These people get disenfranchised and leave the party or bug off. You think we had problems with the Jill Steiners. They outpace those by, per capita. There's more volume, individual volume of those people than there were ever the Jill Steiners on our side. We just had a percentage problem. But it put us in the 3 to 4% range. This is like 9 to 15% of the electorate, the Republican electorate. So so yesterday was this whole thing about like they're subpoenaing Bill and Hillary Clinton for where is this? Let me make sure my comms windows work. Yeah. Oh, it's in the wrong page as well. Or it has to be way up here. Where is it? Oh yeah, there you go. Hillary Clinton faces contempt proceedings over Epstein no-show. Hold on. I got to zoom myself in on this one as well. Bink. It's always something. There we go. This is how ham-handed the Republican Party is right now. Let me squeeze this in so you guys can see what I'm reading here. Comer came out and thought he was dunking on the Clintons or something, like they're all over the Epstein files. Well, Kash Patel, your deputy director just quit. Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, sat down and told under oath and lied to the senator from Senator Kennedy. I think he's from Louisiana. Where's he from? Anyways, so lied to his face about there are no other co-conspirators, right? And then it literally like that. That's still illegal. And this guy is currently serving. Like, so if you're going to prioritize going after someone, obviously go for the people who are currently serving, but they can't because of Donald Trump. But then they talk about how they want to bring in not only Bill but Hillary as well because he's too likable. This is the screwed up part. You want to talk about the inborn misogyny of a huge group of people inside the United States, and I don't mean the entire country because half of us voted for a black woman last year, and more than half of us voted for Hillary Clinton. So, but this idea that amongst Republicans, they hate Hillary Clinton, but they're okay with Bill. It's almost like the same power envy they have with Donald Trump. They have just as much sort of, in reserve, like, I don't know, you can't argue with success, right? That kind of stuff. Hey, Chic Canfora is joining us in the background over here, so give me 1 second and I'll bring her up, but let me go back to the chat room real quick while I set that up, which will be a great time. And I don't see her camera up yet, but I'm sure we will. And then, let's see, what am I doing? Oh, yeah. Go to here, go to there, and then go to this business. And then hopefully, whoops. Yep, I don't see her camera on quite yet, but we'll see. She's in there. I'll let her get going first. And maybe she just has to okay her camera or something. I also don't know if she can hear me, so we'll check in on that. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna pop over just to see. Chick, can you hear me actually, or are you able to?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. We just can't see you. Your camera's not on for some reason.
That's weird because I just finished a class and my camera was on, and so I'll go into my settings. I'll go into my system settings and see if this is like a different
Yeah, it could be. It
app
could
or
just be
something.
yes, it definitely is a different app. Yeah, it
All
it
right.
might be just has to be allowed by your browser or something like that. I'll
All
pop
right.
back to the chat while that's happening.
Go
But you can
ahead.
do it. Yeah, absolutely. And then there we go, chat room. And we'll as soon as I see a camera on Chick's side, I'll check in with her. But I know that there's progress being made. The important thing is that like we have Comer coming out and trying to embarrass the Clintons as a pair, and that's because, and I don't know why this is hard for people to grasp, that Republicans have a real hard problem with of power, no matter how they got it. Why do you think they're okay with Xi Jinping? Why do you think they think he's going to drink, our milkshake? Why do you think they're so supportive of Vladimir Putin? Anybody they see as the dominant power in a situation, how they got there doesn't matter to them. It's immaterial. What the real important thing is that they have it and you'd like to have it too. And in the case of, of like bringing Hillary in, it reeks of this kind of like, well, she must have made him fly with Epstein. Oh, I see a camera coming live over there. It's moving around. I'm seeing a bottle of water. I'm not going to do a play-by-play. There's a keyboard. Command.
Yeah, that's because it's on my phone and not on my computer. Should I be on my phone and not on my computer?
No, I think I see. Your computer is picking up the camera from your phone. You just need to switch which camera.
I'll disconnect. Disconnect my phone.
There you go. Yeah. And then switch to the camera that's in a drop-down menu next to your the little window on eCam.
Okay, let me see.
That was great. I just didn't want to. I don't need to know the layout of your office, for security reasons. So, so the point. And by the way, I don't think chat can. Well, maybe you can. Hold on, chat. Can you hear her coming through? I think there's a guard against that, but I don't want to make sure. Just out of politeness. Because I think I can hear you, but they can't until we go live in that regard. But I'm not sure. Oh, yes, you can't hear fine? Okay, so you are coming through. We do hear you, but we'll wait until the camera thing is remedied. You can also turn, if it does ask for your camera on your phone again, you can always turn around and use that as the camera, and it will work with your computer. That's these devices that are all on the same ecosystem. Things are getting so smart, they're dumb.
Okay.
So the point I was making about the Epstein stuff to the audience is these distractions are increasingly ham-handed. We know this. And the idea that we would notice it is immaterial. They don't care what we think. They never will. But they do know that there is a material difference between the voting public that they had in 2016, the voting public that they had in 2024, and the voting public that they have now to draw from. And we are going to see an increased level of panic because the guy that Trump flipped off is indicative of this. This guy's a registered independent. He's voted for other Republican presidents. He said he never voted for Trump, but he voted for other Republicans, and he yelled pedo protector at Trump. And the White House's response was this guy was yelling expletives at the president, which of course, if English is your actual language, first, second, or third, you know that expletive is a fancy word for swearing, and it was only the president who swore in that situation. What I guess the other guy yelled was a descriptive, a definition. He is indeed, Donald Trump is by all media accounts, a quote pedo protector. He is specifically. If you listen to when he brought Lauren Boebert in to try and talk her down from signing the discharge petition, what did he say? You're going to hurt my friends. Now, we all know that his friends is code for him. But at the same time, that was his easy defense. That's what he thought, okay, this is how I'll get around this, is I'll lay it off on my friends, my buddies. It's not 100% a dodge because it's true both directions. You're okay. Don't worry about it. We'll get you in there, Chick. If you need to reload the page, sometimes that helps. Sometimes you can log out and log back in, and that will solve the problem for you. There's always a lot of fidgeting with computer stuff. Oh, wait, she hears my voice now. Chick, you can log out and log back in if you want, and that might help you. I don't want to kick you out if you don't know.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, I'll do that.
Yeah, good idea. Sometimes that'll reset it.
Okay.
Hard reboot. Okay, there we go. There we go. Hopefully she'll dial back in just a second. Chic Canfora, who was at Kent State, which I think is an apropos topic for where we are right now. um, um, and the response that the Republicans, by the way, are hoping for. This is the other thing I want to keep bringing up, is that the violence and activism and Rise Up and the following ICE agents and all that kind of stuff, they want it to escalate. They want it to escalate. Let's see. Hillary is a distraction. Client asked to unredact the. Oh, Clinton asked to unredact the files. Absolutely. There we go. She's back. Oh, look at that. I see her. Hey, see, this is it. I knew it could happen. There she is. Hold on one second. I've got to. There we go. Now we're live, and we can hear you and see you. Fantastic. Worth the wait.
Sorry about that. I just finished class, so I probably, I was on a whole different app with my camera there, so.
It happens. Yeah, there's a lot of overlap these days. So first of all, what was the topic of the class today, if you don't mind me asking?
It was media writing. It was just writing
Yeah.
honestly, ethically, keep providing your audiences with accurate, untainted information that people can use in their decision making, especially their political decision making, which is always
Sure.
my definition of good journalism.
Yes, absolutely. That and do you find that the right always kind of clamors about confirmation bias and biased media, and and a lot of times it seems like, especially around where they know the facts are not on their side, and they desperately. I mean, Trump's entire raison d'être, in life is to take down the media because they can see through him, right? And so how I guess my question would be useful for us is how do you tell an uncomfortable truth to people who are convinced of that the opposite is true or something like that? How do you deliver the truth in a way that people who have already made up their minds in some cases can hear it?
Well, one of the things we talked about this week as a good example is the role of the fourth estate. We have the legislative, the executive, and the judicial branches of government. And journalism has always been considered the fourth estate, the one that holds the other three branches of government accountable. And so we talked today not only about journalism as the watchdog of government, but also places like the Columbia Journalism Review, the watchdogs of the watchdog. We
Sure.
need to be aware of the fact that in many cases, what we're not getting is accurate, objective, untainted information that we can use in our decision making, not only about voting, but about whether to support or stand up against corruption in government and the unjust policies, it's like a fire hose right now. It's like,
Yeah.
which thing do we become most concerned about? And the worst part about it is it's becoming increasingly difficult for people to find the truth because
Right.
with the algorithms, they're being barraged on our phones and our computers with what they think we want to hear. And most of the time, they think we want to hear more of what we just clicked on. And so we
Yes.
have to be very careful about what we click on and what we access routinely. And that's why I always, in my media literacy classes and my media writing classes, familiarize them with the Ad Fontes media bias chart, which changes every month, and you get you could sign up for free, and it shows you where journalism is landing on the media bias chart. And typically, the wire services, the Associated Press, Reuters, those are right smack in the middle always.
Yeah.
NPR is always there. You see what's skewing a little left and a little right. Those are good to access too. But I make sure that when my students are quoting media, it's not these unfamiliar sites. Like, who is this person that's
Right.
telling you what's happening in your life? Like, find those unbiased sources. But most of all, it's been so hard for me to talk to my friends who are still Trump supporters in the midst of all this chaos.
Right.
And I hear them parroting Fox News talking points.
Sure.
And I cannot get them to turn the channel. Oh, that they're just telling lies is what they say because they're so conditioned to believe Trump when he says everybody's lying but them. which
Do you
is it
think?
defies
Yeah,
logic.
agreed. Do you think that there's? I mean, this has kind of been my experience that there is a there's an ego aspect to this. There's a part where the folks that are saying this, admitting you were wrong or this wrong, is a very difficult proposition for a lot of people on an emotional and psychological level. And especially is how much you've committed to an idea. And so at a certain point, you're not even defending the facts anymore. You're defending the commitment. Does that make sense?
It does
Your
make sense.
your own ego, right? Your own ideas, your own vision of self.
But it's beyond ego for Trump. I want to be careful
Sure,
here because I'm not diagnosing his mental state. But what concerns me is
I
not
will. His
his.
brain is tapioca. It's
All right.
that's
What concerns me is it's not just his medical condition; it's his behavior, and what that behavior signals in a democracy. When you have a sitting president rather, who publicly calls an American citizen. Calls an American citizen who's out there exercising her right to protest ICE policies, a domestic terrorist. When he tells a Ford plant employee, if that's who that person was in the crowd at the plant, he says "fuck you" twice to a
yeah,
citizen, and then flips him
yeah,
off on camera in the
yeah,
presence of news media, Secret Service. It's not just vulgarity; it is
yeah,
a complete loss of restraint. And we should
yeah,
worry about that because
yeah.
the man who spoke up at the Ford plant wasn't what they're saying now was this insane
Purple haired
person
radical,
shouting,
right? Yelling, yeah, like
he
a
wasn't
madman.
violent at all. He didn't threaten him. He didn't
No,
threaten anyone. He did what I think it's one of the most basic rights of our democracy. He exercised his freedom of speech and he did what we did. I mean, I back in the 60s I used to love being at the exit of the Akron Canton Airport when Nixon would be forced to drive by because that's the only road leading out of the airport. And
right.
he could see our "fuck you" signs. He could hear
Yeah,
us say those things to him.
right.
And we felt empowered because he heard us. And this man, whoever he was, did it courageously, knowing full well the power imbalance that we have right now in America. And Trump's response wasn't to ignore it. It wasn't to rebut it or rise above it as a normal person would. He just it was raw retaliation. And that
Yeah,
should matter to all of us because he's got his finger on the button. Let's put it.
right.
And democratic leadership demands self-control, which he has none. And that's what frightens me is that this kind of behavior suggests that somebody that is not at all governed by public accountability. He doesn't care what this man thinks. He doesn't care what any of us thinks. It's someone who no longer cares about polls. He no longer cares about norms, even the appearance of legitimacy. He doesn't care about it. And
Right.
historically,
International law,
that
right. And
that
our
is
own
a
laws.
dangerous inflection point when our leaders stop moderating their behavior because they believe consequences no longer apply. That elections can't make a difference to them. That then and when dissent is punished and power is insulated, like he's doing
Yeah.
right now, our democracy is not only at risk, but it's dying. And we need to stop any further erosion of it. And we've seen this pattern before. And it's not just because leaders were crazy, but because they just believe that the rules don't apply to them any longer. And
Yeah.
when that belief takes hold, the constitutional guardrails, not just decorum, will
Yes.
continue
Well,
to fail.
there is a difference I do see in part of this is that Trump has always had this idea that he's above the law or above responsibility. He's never really caught the receiving end of what he's given to other people, and so I'm sure he feels empowered by that by and large. But there's a genuine difference from somebody like I don't know, Johnson or Nixon, where they're just kind of like, what I have to do and what I am doing is above your pay grade, you low lifes. I'm running the show now, and I make the president says does it is not a crime or whatever Nixon's quote was, that you can't be a criminal if you're the president. Like he believed that and he was still he was drunk yelling at Jews in the hallways, of course, but the rest of the time his brain was relatively functional. He was a relatively young man compared to Trump. Trump's whole thing is that there's a perfect storm raging, it seems, right now, which is on the one hand he never felt restrained, and now the SCOTUS has given him the even more evidence to that effect. The House and the Senate Republicans aren't going to do anything to really pull him in, even though we've had a couple of major crossovers. One with the healthcare vote that's coming up, and specifically one that's with the Epstein files, which is the thing that's obviously aging him by the day, because all of this is worth it. Yes, all of this is worth it. Attacking Venezuela and losing half of MAGA because he's starting new wars and stuff like that. It's worth it to keep the Epstein files hidden, because whatever we have seen, whatever's in there is worse. But there's also this physical aspect of it. You've got this sort of Mad King aspect of his personality, but then it is abundantly clear that his brain is cottage cheese right now. Windowsill cottage cheese at that. He got up and walked to the window during that oil exec meeting.
Oh, God.
And was looking out the window going, wow, what a view of a hole in the ground. And it's just like, I've mentioned this on the show, but my grandfather died of Alzheimer's. And when they knew it was time, like we're within the window, his brain's going to start, the cascade is going to happen faster and faster now. One of the signs was he kept having to go out and check the trunk of the car. He had to get up from the restaurant or wherever we were and go check the trunk of the car. I don't know what he was looking for. My theory is he's to sneak us into drive-ins, so he was afraid we were still in there. But right, you've done that, I'm sure. Yeah. But I think that was the sign that, oh shit, this is going to go bad. This was months away. This is, within months he didn't remember anybody. He could barely take care of himself within 3 or 4 months. And then it was just, the end was nigh. And Trump, that whole getting up and going to the window thing and the kind of wandering off the tarmac and wandering away from Putin or whatever, like there are these little spells and they're getting closer and closer together. And to your point, he's still got access to the button. We are really in a Pinewood Derby car rolling down a hill with no controls whatsoever. Like this is, and it's less about our democracy and more about just a madman with access to every tool in the U.S. arsenal.
Agreed. And the public execution of a American citizen this week, of course, I wasn't surprised to be called to weigh in, because I'm getting a lot of calls because the parallels to Kent State are so apparent. But Nixon was still forced to have an investigation.
Right.
And the president's commission on campus unrest under his leadership ended up calling the shootings at Kent State unnecessary, unwarranted, and inexcusable. His own FBI, under very ultra-conservative J. Edgar Hoover,
Yeah.
found that the claims of self-defense by the Ohio National Guard on May 4th, 1970, were fabricated after the event. And the blanket, and of course, we were branded by Nixon, Agnew, even Governor Reagan at the time, as thugs and hooligans, and they never called us terrorists, but they may as well have. But to have the administration come on so strong, calling this mother a domestic terrorist,
Right.
and her Good's murder has to be tied to the broader Democratic concerns. It was a public execution, because in our democracy, the use of lethal force by the state, in this case the federal government, has to be subject to accountability, especially when you've got what we have now: community leaders, state and community leaders throughout Minnesota, local officials, everyday citizens calling for answers. Not to mention when federal prosecutors are resigning in protest over the case not
Right.
being investigated. What it teaches us is that when state sanctioned violence isn't examined and when power goes unchecked, there's an erosion of trust.
Right.
Nixon thought killing, and he mused. We learned from the Nixon tapes decades later. He mused, what if a couple of people die in these anti-war protests? Will that curtail the growing anti-war movement? what he found then and what we're finding now is trust erodes when power is unchecked. And so does the very idea that government exists to protect all of us equally, and that's what's pissing so many people off right
Yeah.
now, because
Right.
it's easy to dismiss all this turmoil as random chaos. And like I said, it feels like a fire hose right now. But when leaders feel their power is threatened, we see what we're seeing now. They escalate internal repression, which is a war at home, and this external brinkmanship. I've got the biggest weapons in the world. I'm coming for Greenland. Now I'm going to go to Mexico. I've already got Venezuela, and the oil is mine, and the spoils are ours. It is just so clear that under Trump, there is no democracy or guaranteed constitutional protection unless we demand it.
Right.
Because we, the people, is what our Constitution is about. We already have federal law enforcement normalizing their violence in our cities, democratic cities, I might add, without any local consent, in spite of state opposition and pushback. And you got goons like Stephen Miller, he scares the hell out of me,
Yeah. Yeah.
constantly using this security language, and we see the government kind of insulating itself, as you said, with this now gargantuan ballroom above the existing bunker that he brags is going to be able to withstand drone attacks, and leave the rest of us vulnerable to whatever
Right.
he has in mind right now. So all this narrative about existential threats just to justify this extraordinary, not only power, but abuse of power. In nearly every case, it's unconstitutional and
Right.
unlawful, matters because the elections are approaching.
Yeah.
And it feels shaky to him. It feels shaky to those in power. And what we know is that's when they invoke emergency. That's when they remember the fear of the caravans advancing
Oh
at the
yeah.
border during the last midterms? The caravans that of rapists and
Lunatics
criminals and
yeah, from
lunatics
insane
that
asylums.
disappeared. Yeah, yeah. All
Yes.
those caravans disappeared after the midterms.
Yeah.
They're there to centralize power and suppress dissent. That's it.
Well,
That's
okay,
it.
so there's a couple points, and I think it's important that I think
Sorry,
that
I'm on a roll.
no, I love it. No, I'm great.
So
But while you were talking, there are a couple of things that I was like that stand out to me. One is that that government, when it becomes less democratic, there's an erosion of trust to it, and I would argue that Trump and the Republicans fomented a lack of trust in the government on purpose so that they could present themselves, absent of reality, as the saviors of the American taxpayer and the voter. Because in a lot of these cases, they talk about, how, they were budget hawks until Trump gets in, and then our military budget next year is going to be $1.5 trillion. They were worried about the debt ceiling. Remember, like the debt ceiling was like it was irresponsible of the Democrats to even pay the debts that Trump had accrued during COVID by raising the debt ceiling, and yet they give him a $5 trillion raise in the debt ceiling when they went in their big BS bill this summer. So the hypocrisy needle is obviously flown out of the entire gauge and is spiraling through the room, breaking things and killing cats. But the trust thing was a strategy, because I've always said that the Republican motto is government can't do anything right, elect me and I'll prove it. And all of them are about stopping the function of government. Like this, the idea that Trump's fraud right now dwarfs anything any group of 17 Somalians could do in any particular state, 10 times over. But what he wants to focus on that is not just because it can vilify black people and immigrants, and this is part and parcel of what he's been selling, but also because Republicans by and large want to end the social safety net. So the way you do that is you can't even have this because it's so fraudulent. Nobody, let's break it, let's tear it all down and start from scratch, knowing full well that the votes don't exist to start a program at all. So this is their way of, death by 1,000 cuts and letting it, and claiming that everybody who's helped by it is an anomaly, and everybody, the fraud that's a small percentage of it, because they leave out the numbers for how many people are helped, right? This is a 6% problem, and all the people that were helped in this situation, but they're making the 6% look like the 94% in that regard, so that they can dismantle that whole thing. So I don't think it's an accident, and I think you're right about Stephen Miller. That Stephen Miller, that the biggest fear about it's not that Trump's dumbass thumb is on the button. It's that Stephen Miller is whispering in his ear. There's this real distinct kind of, Rasputin-y Nosferatu kind of feeling that the guy gives off. And half of his decisions, even the Venezuela thing, seems to be made like somebody went, it'd be really cool, boss? You should just do it. You should just do it. Right? That's it. Like, that was the level of thinking, because we have a plan in the military for everything. It's part of what they do in peacetime. Like, get busy, figure out what happens if Guam gets their own nukes and fires on us. Write up 3 plans to what we do there. That's how they have to work. It's part of the job. But
and I'm sure they feed his ego. He loves being told that he can rule the world, and that he has, they remind him. And let's not forget that this new, or two things, that he does. We know that he listens to whoever talked with him right before.
Yes.
And Stephen Miller is always going to be the one that usurps what we saw. I mean, or at least we know that one of his aides showed him the assassination of Renee Nicole Good, and when he saw it, he started to wonder, well, maybe I didn't see the same thing the first time, but then he doubled down.
Right.
So somebody else got to him, and let's not forget that this whole new barrage of chaos and war talk came immediately after it became clear that they were obstructing the release of the Epstein files.
Right. Yeah.
That is even more horrific, probably, what they're holding back than we can imagine for Trump and those who bought his seat. So think about the timing. You had a court order required the release of the files that would expose deviant and corrupt, powerful networks of people. And only 1% of those were released, and most of them we're finding are things that were already out there in the public domain. So mostly documents, held back are the ones that will, except they cherry pick a couple Clinton things so that they can justify calling Bill and Hillary in now to distract even further. It's a microcosm of a much larger issue, and that is we have a system that protects the powerful, that obscures the truth, that redirects our public outrage toward these manufactured enemies instead of real accountability. And that it's that constant state of chaos, foreign threats, domestic terrorists among us, endless emergencies. You got to go into this city because it's all corrupt. And he loved the whole Minnesota scandal because he could capitalize on that. It creates the perfect environment for something else to happen quietly in the background, and that is a scramble to protect powerful people from accountability. And who are these people? We all need to know that, because it's much bigger than Trump. And Trump has a lot of support. Why? How many of these people are tied to what we will learn in the Epstein files?
Right. Well, or have been tied to protecting those people, or protecting the people that protect those people, and that's what they're worried about. This sort of cascade problem. I got to tell you, though, I am not worried about any House Democrats being in there. I don't know. I haven't seen a single even notion of a Senate Democrat being in there. Now, there's a bunch of maggot politicians who've hit the skids lately and decided to step down, not the least of which was Matt Gaetz, who I would argue, Trump helped him escape an ethics probe, but he and his buddy Joel Greenberg were trying to be the new Epstein. Epstein's dead. There's an industry there. You can anybody can look at this, and if you have zero morals and you have a cruel streak, you can clearly see that there is money to be made in information peddling and control and providing children to awful people. Like it happens in trailer parks. Why wouldn't it happen in the halls of power sometimes? Because I guess there are fewer checks on trailer parks than there are on the Florida House, maybe. But ultimately, that's what happened. Like, that's why Matt Gaetz is linked to this whole thing, because that was his dream gig or whatever. Well, I got news for you. When he decided that was what he and Joel were going to do, they started talking to the same people that were helping supply and support and build an infrastructure for that kind of behavior that helped Epstein do all that stuff and got in his Rolodex. So I guarantee there's a ton of political overlap in the people who are like want to step in and fill that, seize that business model, as it were. But I'm honestly not. There's not going to be a point where like we have to tear down the Democratic Party because period. And I want to remind everybody about that. There is a chance, like Thomas Massey, you ask him, his entire party, but for three other people, two women and one guy, I guess, are all protecting pedophiles right now. That's what that whole pedophile protector yell that the guy gave was. That's what they're talking about. He's reiterating what Massey's constituents are all saying to Massey, like. Right. Why is 92% of our party, when we're in power, protecting this cabal of pedophiles, obviously and egregiously? The FBI calls their storage website for the Epstein stuff that they release the vault. That in and of itself should tell you that you don't put. The DOJ calls it the library because there's the Epstein library because it was literally a library. It is a list. It is files in a category, and they call that the definition of that is a library. So they keep that on there. That's where you get all the documents related to it. But the FBI under Kash Patel call it the vault because they don't intend to let everything out. They are keeping it hidden. A vault is not an open access space. And it's so telling. And I don't know how they escape it.
Wasn't that a Seinfeld thing? Wasn't that a Seinfeld thing? If it was in the vault, it was the secret you didn't tell the
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And by the way, Steve Bannon was an exec producer on Seinfeld. Like he made a shit ton of money from that show. So yeah. Also, I want to show everybody what you were talking about. This business right here. This is the Ad Fontes media chart right here. And look at that. Our dear friend Jimmy Dore is well below the line for misleading info. And unfortunately, right next to Tony Michaels. Poor Tony. And then Tim Pool is over here a little lower than Jimmy. Ouch.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there's a bunch of reasonable stuff right around this. Daily Show's just analysis or wide variation in reliability because it's comedy. That's where comedy should always be in the analysis or wide variation in reliability, because that's what comedy is in its own way. But and then the idea that TMZ is in there also because they talk shit about people, but they play videos, so that's what keeps them in the middle. Giving out those videos is what it's their bread and butter. So it allows, that's true. Whatever in the videos that they're showing is by and large true, but they bullshit about it so much that it taps them down here. But yeah, so that's that arc that we're talking about. And I think Media Matters for America and Ben Shapiro are on the same line right now. It's so ironic. Again, boy reading aloud from his laptop in a coffee shop, which is what that show is about. But
can you see where if Joe Rogan even made the chart, if he's on there? I didn't even look.
I don't know if it's very small on here, so it's hard for me. I have to upgrade my subscription if I want to download the picture.
It would be interesting because Trump's got to be worried that Joe Rogan is referring to ICE as the Gestapo right now.
Yes.
And that the Wall Street Journal is really very nervous about his attacks on Jerome Powell, which aren't about interest rates. They're about control. The Federal Reserve was designed to be independent precisely so presidents can't do what Trump's doing, trying to manipulate the economy for political survival. And it's one of the last guardrails in our democracy to protect the public from the impulse of such a self-serving autocrat as we now know Trump to be, as we've long known Trump to be. But yet we see him this week, and this has to anger not just the Joe Rogans, but some in the MAGA base that might, have still a brain. When he publicly humiliates and mocks and threatens the Fed chair, calling him
Yeah.
an incompetent fool,
Right.
calling him a jerk this morning. I mean, he's not offering economic critique. He's signaling something that all of us should recognize is far more dangerous, and that is the independence itself. You know, he's saying
Mm-hmm.
it's illegitimate if it doesn't serve him. And that's all he's saying. The
Yes.
independence, the Fed, unless it serves him, has no meaning for the rest of us. And that fits
Mm-hmm.
the broader pattern. He
Mm-hmm.
attacks independent judges, he attacks independent prosecutors, they're all smeared. He attacks independent journalists. They're labeled as enemies of the people, which only happens in authoritarian regimes.
Yeah.
Independent protesters are branded domestic terrorists. And now we have independent economic institutions treated like obstacles to be crushed. And I hope this resonates with the independent voters,
Mm-hmm.
because authoritarian leaders do this. They don't abolish institutions overnight, they discredit them first. Okay.
Right.
So when they finally bend or break them, which he's doing, the public's already been conditioned, as you said, to distrust government, to
Mm-hmm.
distrust those institutions. And what's especially dangerous here is the timing, because when the economic pressure actually is very real,
Yeah.
families are struggling. We're struggling with rent, groceries, medicine. Attacking the Fed is a way to redirect anger away from his policy failures toward a convenient scapegoat. Let's blame it on Jerome Powell. So
Right.
undermining the Fed doesn't help working people. It helps those who benefit from this chaos. Who benefits from this chaos?
Well,
Who benefits from this volatility and the political leverage over the markets?
right.
The
I,
wealthy, powerful few.
Well, I think, yeah, I also think part of, why his fixation on oil is because his brain is stuck in 1978 or 86 or 92, whenever he thinks oil was the most important commodity on earth. You can hear him talking about the people that are there. These are the biggest, most powerful people on earth. Not anymore, dum dum. Like the tech
Mm.
companies have dwarfed the return on oil and gas. That's where the money is moving, stupid. Don't believe me? Ask the Saudis. Are they digging a bunch of new oil wells? No, they're building a big high-tech city with robots in it to try and make up for the fact that oil is over. But his brain is still stuck in that. And I do think there is this idea that people don't trust the media. He heard that over and over again. Well, I can just leverage that trust. I can just that distrust. I can use that distrust that they have now. The reason they don't trust it is because the myriad. I'm sure you have plenty to talk about this, but this would be my general take on it. Is that on the one hand, if you believe one thing and you've got an opinion based media, Fox versus MS Now kind of division of ideas, and you've got people advocating in the news as opposed to giving just boring direct facts, that that whatever side you're on is the way you guarantee that audience is that you've got to, from a rating standpoint, you've got to bifurcate that audience as far as you can without breaking it. It's called treacle cutting in comedy. You can only stretch the treacle so far before it'll start to bow, so you have to cut it before that happens. And there's a difference in those audiences. We got to cut the audience before they go, well, maybe the other side, well, maybe, wait, where are you going? Like where they try to go back, right? But you've got to distinguish yourself as wholly different. Usually it's on an ideological base. And when that happens, one audience will think the other side is completely full of shit, and the other side will think this side is full of shit, and they'll talk at cross purposes on a lot of details because it's opinion based and not fact based.
Right.
And political actors can use that to manipulate whichever crowd they think there's more of a volume of, or more that may be ascendant, or if they're feeling descendant, they can act on that and motivate those people, like Trump did with maggots, the forgotten people. Like, honest to God, the man has golf courses all over the place. He never, he goes to the White House and to Mar-a-Lago, and never, he doesn't hang out with regular people. And when he does, he flips them off. So, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm sure you have an idea about that media spectrum aspect. I'd love to hear your take on it
Well, I do,
in the last couple of minutes.
and in talking about the oil, yeah, and talking about Stephen Miller being the last person to to speak to him. I'm sure that not only are they feeding his ego, but they're feeding his lust for oil, and because all tied to his lust for money and power,
Right.
which explains Venezuela, but which also led him to probably one of the most inflammatory and contradictory moves with his rhetoric around Iran, because
Hmm.
we've seen the massive uprisings, and
Yes.
he's publicly encouraged the protesters there to take to the streets to demand freedom from the brutal regime, and then we in America, as we watch the execution of a protester, a nonviolent protester in Minnesota, um, being demonized as a domestic terrorist, he's publicly encouraging them to keep protesting and saying, help is on the way,
Yeah.
hinting at strong options if the Iranian government dares to do what his administration just
Right.
did, kill those demonstrators. So on the surface it sounds like solidarity with people that are resisting repression, but here's the irony, and why it matters. It's the same administration that talks about supporting people fighting totalitarianism abroad
Yeah.
that repeatedly brands Americans that protest federal abuses domestic terrorists. You know, and there's I don't think there's enough outrage at the hypocrisy, because I just
Yeah.
can't get out of my mind the images of what happened to Renee Nicole Good, and anybody who sees that footage knows it not only warrants an investigation, but somebody needs to be held responsible for
Hmm.
that. The double standard matters because it shows how political power is shaping the narratives. Support
Right.
freedom abroad, but dismiss dissent at home.
Sure.
And when you have force
Well,
and propaganda used,
obviously,
instead of
yeah, obviously, I think in the case of Iran, he's using that as an attack point to give himself some like wiggle room with either the UN or any pushback that he might get from the international community or his own donors, rich buddies in other countries. Like stirring up shit. So that it gives like give yourself some cover so that when you go in, it doesn't look like you just wanted to bomb Iran the whole time, which is clearly what we're talking about here. Like his concern, like he didn't care about the women and children in Bucha that were raped and slaughtered by the Russians. So the idea that he suddenly cares about Iranians is absurd. It's just at its face. But what it is that he will strategically use any kind of talking point, any kind of media narrative, and any kind of sort of social narrative. He'll weaponize any of them, and that's where I think, like the lesson for us is recognize that that's what people do. You know what I mean? Like listen to the language of him talking about protesters in over there. Besides they'll be hell to pay nonsense. But the fact that he's, what the White House is saying or whatever, it doesn't sound that different than what we've ever said about protesters in another country. It's just now because it's him, it's bullshit. Like other presidents didn't bomb Iran because they meant what they said about supporting the protesters, but also it's not our country and we'll help in the ways that we can within the legal limits of that, but we're not going to invade another country anytime a riot breaks out because obviously we don't give a goddamn about Sudan. And so, the idea that like Sudan doesn't even chart right now, and it is the worst slaughter happening on the planet other than Russian soldiers dying of their own accord. And you're not going to hear anything about Trump from Trump about this unless refugees from there start coming to the United States. And he's like, we got to stop this so that we can send them back. That's what Venezuela is about by and large. That's what Cuba is about by and large. I think his moving on to Cuba or even moving on to Mexico and making them de facto, client states of the United States is in part to send the people that are in the United States from there back. That's what he wants to do. And so he weaponizes the language that we're, people who are peaceniks or, or against or anti-war or anything. It's too easy to weaponize that language. If you, it's what is it like, trust in Allah, but lock up your camel, or beware of a wolf in sheep's clothing. I mean, these are adages for a reason.
And when you have force and propaganda used in place of evidence and accountability, then it weakens not only our democracy, but the very idea of any semblance of justice under the law here. Because one of the things that, I mean, what we're essentially doing with these masked, armed, hooded ICE agents that our own federal government are saying are immune from prosecution, which even police aren't, that don't have to wear badges, they don't have to wear body cams, and they don't have to wear identifying badges the way police do. It's no different than now what we're hearing about this camouflage airplane, that they use as
Right.
military used to resemble a civilian plane in a deadly
Which
strike against
yet
the
another war
convenient
crime.
target,
Yeah.
drug smuggling boat in the Caribbean, but it killed 11 people, including survivors from the first hit that we know were clinging to debris and things like that. But we're hearing the alarm sounded about these very serious legal and ethical concerns, because there are not just laws here about that. There's international humanitarian law, and we're
Right.
talking about the Geneva Conventions here, and the protocols. Combatants are required to distinguish themselves from civilians, not
Right.
to mask themselves as civilians to get there, to make it
Right. All the
possible
White
for them
House's
to
criticisms of
kill.
Hamas go out the window when you're painting an entire plane to look like a civilian aircraft so you can bomb a boat that you will never have to show the evidence that the bombing of that boat was valid.
That's right. So but they mix their words. They capture the enemy by feigning that they have protected status. You know, and there's a prohibition against that. When you use deception to betray confidence, that's what Article, what is it, 37, in the Geneva Conventions is all about. You know, it, they were painted to appear like they were non-military and concealing weapons under their wings or something like that.
Right.
It's like it's no different than these thugs. Like, none of us is safe if we can go into any of our streets where ICE is, and somebody else could put on a hood and a mask and demand that we get out of our car,
Right.
and they're not
Exactly.
ICE at all. And so
Right.
there's no question why Renee Good felt felt justified in following their first order, which was get out of here.
Right.
When somebody comes to her door and says, "Get the fuck out of your car," there too.
Uh-huh.
I would get out of there too. Because without accountability, with the camouflage, you don't know who you're dealing with. And it is natural to run from danger. And that woman clearly was in danger, and the government put her there.
Again, I've said this before. The bullet struck her in Minnesota, but it was fired from Mar-a-Lago, and the
Oh, wait,
idea that
can you
did I
hear
lose
me?
you? Yep, I can hear you. Did I lose you audio wise for a second? Sorry.
I can no
Did
longer
it?
hear you.
Dun dun dun.
That's
Hold
weird.
on. It's not you. It's probably me. Hold on. I see audio coming, and I see your audio coming. So, hello, check one. That might be on your side, kiddo. Um,
I'm going to sign off and come back in.
okay, good. That sounds like a brilliant idea. There you go. I'll go to here, give her a break. She'll sign off, and I'll. Sometimes that happens. So I just posted the link for the Ad Fontes chart. Somebody was just asking for that. I saw that breeze by in the chat room. Also, hit the like, share the show. It's House Sparks Mega Worldwide, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, there she is. Excellent. We'll come back into here.
Wow.
Ta-da! Hey, is that better?
Well, if you can hear me, that's good, but I can't hear you.
I can hear you, but you
I
cannot hear
cannot
me.
hear you any longer, and I don't know why.
Well, we're over time, and
It
I've got
just
another.
stopped.
Yeah. Hold on. We'll see this. Hold on one second.
I
We
can
can.
no longer hear you.
Yes.
Audio.
I can hear you. There you go. We're typing. This is fun. Uh, let's see. I don't know if you can see the chat there. Um,
Well,
yeah. Let's see. We'll call it a day. Um, let's
can you
see.
hear me, Hal? I can't hear you at all.
Yeah.
And I love your
Um,
voice.
Ah,
for sure.
that's sweet. So I'll say goodbye to you,
Oh God.
and let's see.
All right.
Yeah, and
Maybe
we'll
maybe
talk.
we'll end it here then.
We'll talk next time. We will talk next time. That would be good. All right. Excellent. There you go. But yeah, thank you so much. Okay. I think she can see in the chat. I hope that I wrote in the. Let's see. Welcome back anytime. Because I know Phil's going to be joining us in a minute. And let's see. Hold on. Let me see if that was. Yeah, because my audio is going out to you guys, right? You guys can hear me. I can hear it. It's all good. Use cue cards. Yeah. I agree. She's a great guest. This
Oh,
is absolutely true. There you go. Could you hear me again all of a sudden? Hold on. I think she could hear me almost for a second. Something happened. There you go.
I can hear you again.
Oh, look at that. Okay,
I
we'll
can hear
see.
you again.
Oh, nice. I don't know what
I
the.
I can hear you again.
It was just a gremlin. Just a gremlin. Now we can say a proper goodbye, at least
I
for this
know.
part. I got Philip Ittner coming in just a minute in the show if he's got power. He's in Ukraine. And they've of course, been under fire, nonstop since, Trump's acquiescing to whatever Putin's mirage of a peace deal has been about. And here's one of the things, and this before Phil comes in, I'm curious about your take on this because the long running story and the idea and I think it's clear that there's something going on, is that Trump was either he was either an asset of Putin because of compromise or reward or both. We know obviously that Trump's Deutsche Bank loans were backed by Russia, so that's why Deutsche Bank didn't care if he could pay them back. The tower in Chicago, a bunch of his golf courses, all paid for with Russian money. Can you hear me? All right. Just making sure she can hear me. It's getting a little choppy. We're being attacked, clearly.
Now I can. You kind of went
Okay.
in and out again, but
Okay. So we know that
I know.
the Russians have, a mix of compromise and reward. And it seems like he's outrun the reward because his own graft has rewarded him more than whatever the Russians were giving him for years. Like he sees himself as past that. The compromise part is compared to what's in the Epstein files, a pee-pee tape is nothing. So I think, him with an adult prostitute in Moscow, oh no. Boo. Hold on. I should make, yeah. All right. We'll try again. We'll try again next time. Hold on. This business right here. I think she can hear my chat in there, but Andrea, if you could reach out to her and let her know that we'll just try again the next time she wants to be on, and we'll give a proper goodbye. Chic Canfora is always welcome, fantastic guest. Was present at the Kent State shooting, and now is a teacher and lecturer. You blame Elon? I do too. It's so sad that she has to take off. She's adorable. She's a lovely lady. And yes, I think she does have a portrait of herself aging in her attic. That's yeah. Yeah, the auto worker who yelled at Trump has now been suspended. Yes. But I'm sure he will make from his GoFundMe, and I have to find that link. Hold on, let me see if I can dig up that link for you guys. Let's see. Excellent, thank you. Excellent. All right, I'm gonna see if I can find. Hold on. My mouse is like I rearranged my monitor so I never know where my mouse is gonna be. You know how it is. All right. Here we go. Let's see. Detroit. There we go. La da da. Yeah, here's the Detroit Rose. Here you go. Yeah, he's hit 500,000 on his GoFundMe right now. This is here's the comms on this. Let me move this up here 1 second. Detroit Free Press. Here we go. Yeah, donations for suspended worker, a Ford worker who heckled Trump hits $500,000. Have fun in your retirement, buddy. I mean, Trump has his own new version of the lottery. You know, if you get close enough to call him, the asshole that he is, and there's ramifications for it at your workplace or whatever, you can start a GoFundMe and we'll put you out to pasture. As the American people, by and large, are like, way to go, buddy. I don't know how much of that came directly from Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene, but I'm sure there was a significant dump into there, which is a lot of fun. So obviously, a positive thing. Hold on. And this is one of the things. Open up a couple of things because hopefully Phil will be joining us. I think. Oh, he's still without electricity? Okay, gotcha. All right. That I understand. Well, that's not an accident. I'll show you something in a moment. Let's see. Yeah, this one right here. And I'll turn this on this business. Show reader. There you go. I think this should show properly. Moscow is working to freeze Ukrainians to death. This is genocide. This is Ariana Jick. I'm going with Jick. That's what I'm going to go with. Ariana Jick at York University. After yet another Russian attack on infrastructure, an unimaginable 70% of Kyiv is without electricity, heat, or water, and temperatures are plummeting to negative 22 degrees Celsius. Our dear friend Phil is right in the middle of this. So we send our love to him, and at some point, he laughed off when the chat room suggested, could we send him blankets? Just saying. There may be an argument for that now. There are 2 million people in Kyiv that are without power in this regard. Hold on one second. Yeah, there we go. No. So, Anna Polina Luna is now claiming that Ukraine is persecuting Christians. That's kind of the go-to because their president is Jewish, sort of. The guy who heckled now needs to start a podcast fucking with Trump and fighting for democracy. I think there's a lot of, Peg, I think there's a lot of that already in existence. I think he could just kick back. It'd be fun if he donated like $100,000 to, a charity or something, just that's a dig at Trump. Yep. Yeah, he's right about using candles for war. He's absolutely right. Anna Polina Luna is a ding-dong, dingy-doo. So in case you don't know, this is Anna Polina Luna. Anna Polina Luna is the thing to say. All right. So she has been making the case, as many others have been making, that that there is they're persecuting Christians now. I feel like that's kind of the dumbest go-to that you see from Republicans right now. Like what's left in the ammo box that will make maggots give a shit? They're persecuting Christians, because there's a big bunch of them in the back going, no, they aren't. Let's see. This is. Sorry, one second. Option. There you go. Let's see. Thank you for the Venmo. That's very sweet. Who is that? Hold on, it's coming up. Leslie, thank you so much. Love the show. I thought the whole walkathon idea is a good one. I agree. We can make a push to register new people and explain why we're better at the end. We could do it. You could do a set or something at the end of the. Yeah, that's a great idea. I like it. I mean, I think what would be really great is do a walk that leads to the venue where we're doing Sexy Liberal. That'd be cool. So Kash Patel just posted this. This morning, the FBI and partners, I think he means his boyfriend in Vegas, executed a search warrant of an individual at the Washington Post who was found to allegedly be obtaining reported and classified you do realize that's not a sentence, right? That they're not, you can't be allegedly and was found at the same time. Like that's guilty. That's we'll see. That's guilty. That's we'll see. Obtaining and reported classified sensitive military information from a government contractor. Gee, was he in Hegseth's signal group? You tit. Endangering our war fighters and compromising America's national security. The alleged leaker was arrested this week and is in custody. As this is an ongoing investigation, we will have no further comment. What's the word I'm looking for? There's a phrase for this. It's bullshit. That's right. Yeah.
That was just bullshit, Joel.
I know. Yeah. You don't have to tell me. So, obviously, the maggots are like, yeah. Except, this seems to be the thing that's chasing him around. He goes, Red Pill Truth 2024. Let's see what this guy had to say. Message to Cash and Bondi and anyone who understands what is at stake. In the next 3 years, I don't care if we ever make a drug bust, seizure, arrest bank robbers, forgers, counterfeiters, fraudsters, white-collar criminals, or anyone with evidence of crimes in the Epstein files. None of that matters compared to the crimes of the deep state. We need to focus on the crimes committed on J6 by the FBI, CIA, and Congress. This dude, imagine being this deep. Let all the Epstein co-conspirators go. They were just fucking kids. Right. Election fraud in 2020 and elsewhere, the Obama-led deep state, Russia collusion, hoax, and treason. It seems like Trump wrote this. I mean, it basically did. And this is the number. This is a thing that's in circulation in maggot world. Number of arrests on all these things. I don't know why. What the fuck are you going to arrest in the Biden auto pen thing? Epstein pedophile arrest is down there. Hold on, I have to shrink it down. Where is it? There you go. 2020 election fraud, Benghazi, Doge findings, which there were none. They just spent $30 billion and had nothing to show for it. I have to say, there's a certain this feels like it's gonna. I don't know. I'm getting a feeling. Right now, chat room. I'm getting this. It's an overwhelming, and we're gonna check in with Phil to make sure he's okay. But I'm fairly certain it's just that he doesn't have electricity currently, and I don't know what his battery backup is, and I also don't know how much he feel like he kind of almost needs a break. Quite frankly, to just get through this stuff. And it's I have a feeling this is going to be a popcorn week, kids. I gotta tell you, I don't consider myself a prognosticator of prognosticators like Punxsutawney Phil, but I gotta say that this week feels like one of those weeks where something's gonna shake loose, and I'm for it. Here is, by the way, in case you haven't seen it. Trump flipping off the worker. Dude just yelled, "You're a pedo protector," and he says, fuck you," points at him and gives him the finger. I mean, you want to talk about a losing moment for Donald Trump. Oops, sorry. Let me scroll this up a little higher. Did you see it? Move this up here. That's a little better, I guess. Yeah, there you go. Stretch it out. Sorry, I wasn't quite on screen the way it should be. just, you're a pedo protector. And then he just, like, it's so lame. All right, maggots, let me tell you something. Gather round, you Weasley snowflake bitches. That was fucking weak. Trump's like, fuck you, like that. Was so toddler-esque and pathetic and tiny-dicked and weak and small and stupid and beta. Just so, like, it was lame. It was dweeby. And you know it. That's the thing. Maggots, you know it was. I don't have to tell you, just mad because I am. But you know it. You know it's weak and stupid. You also know he's a pedophile protector. He said so to fucking Lauren Boebert, who all of you want to sleep with. Period. That's the thing. Okay, that's the thing about the current criticisms of Donald Trump and his behavior and all this kind of stuff, is that the reason why maggots are getting more and more angry about this shit is because we don't even have to make that the criticism. It's already happening inside their heads. Maggots, you know this. Stop it. Stop it. Stop defending this scumbag. Defend the ideas. Defend closing the border or whatever the fuck you want. But stop defending him. Stop protecting the guys he's protecting, including himself. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt here. I'm saying maybe you're not a moron. Maybe you just got suckered, and it's a strike to your ego to admit it. It's difficult to say you were flim-flammed, like a grandma who gets a call and says, we need your social security number or we can't release this check to your grandson, right? That you got taken, okay? And look, I'll even bullshit you if it makes you feel better. You got taken by the greatest salesman in the world, according to Josh Brolin. But you don't get points for staying took. Right? Like, that's not a real thing. That's not a valuable use of your ego. And you know, when you watch him do this, that the reason he reacted this way is because he knows it's true. And I got to tell you, when the guy was yelling, pedo protector or whatever, shit, Trump could just be thinking about the fact that Epstein's still alive. And he helped him get out during his first term. And he thought this was all over. You guys know this. And this isn't our problem. This is not a Democrat problem at all. Anybody on our side that's caught up in this kind of shit can go pound sand. Release everything. And if anybody's involved in this shit or covering it up or protecting them, they can go fucking too. All of them. Everyone. Don't care. It will not end my belief that we should have a social safety net or that we need, policies that benefit every American. We need, affordable health care and good roads and schools, and that Democrats supply that every time and Republicans undercut it. One of the reasons why people think government can't do anything is because of the thousands of cuts made by Republicans every time they come in. And I don't just mean funding. I mean the actual, putting idiots in charge on purpose. This is not a Democrat problem. Epstein is a wholly Republican problem. Because if there's anybody that's allegedly on our side of the aisle that's involved in this, none of us will miss them. But if the truth comes out, listen, if all of the truth comes out from the Epstein files, you guys are fucked. forever. You are going to be clinging to Trump's fucking full diaper like it's an anchor you guys thought would float when you jumped off the Titanic. You're done, and you know it. The only way out for Republicans out of this Epstein scandal, out of this Epstein problem, is to cut bait and get the fuck out now. Go back to being constitutional conservatives. I don't give a shit. Go back to being budget hawks and all that stuff. Try to do the actual work of being a conservative instead of just dovetailing behind this fucking scumbag. Because he's all yours. Other than that, I have no opinion. I think I was... It was how weak his fucking middle finger was. It was like this. It was like curled like that. Deformed like Epstein's dick, you know? Either fire off one of these. I mean, this is it. Can we just have a master class in giving the finger? It's that big or it's nothing. This is not a thing. Never has been, never will. I don't know what that is. This is how you do it. Trump flips people off like he flips coins. Like a beta. Beta. Just pitiful. Fuck you. Oh God, it's so weak. But hey, keep defending it if you want, but that's how you go down with him. Okay? That's how this happens. That's how this all plays out. Is Verizon down temporarily? Oh, good. So Verizon service is down for half the country right now. Not fun. This will be some of the attacks that we should, I guess, expect when we're threatening everybody. Yeah. I want to show. Well, since I've got a half hour and I don't have you guys, because Phil can't be in here, I wanted to show, I have another one of the Russians is having a bit of a meltdown. See if I can find this dude. Where are you? Oh, I heard Hassan shocked his dog again. Like an asshole. Where is it? Russian Media Monitor. Yeah, here it is. Oh, look out. Here we go. This is Russian Media Monitor had this guy on, Sergei Karnukov. And this is his before and after takes on Venezuela. This is pretty sweet. Hold on. Here we go.
Вот Мадуро.
Maduro made the right
Правильное
decision.
решение сделал.
He started to
Он
rely
начал
on
опираться на
Russia.
Россию. Много публично не скажешь.
A lot of things can't be said publicly, but let's say it vaguely. If it wasn't for Russia, Venezuela would be on fire now.
Вот я это совершенно ответственно заявляю.
He counted on us, and he can count on us every time. We did a lot to preserve the peace in Venezuela.
В Венесуэле мир сохранился. И чтобы...
And let's see. So Trump would like to make a friendly call.
Сегодня Трамп позвонил и так, знаете...
That's nice. And speak to Maduro in a brotherly fashion. Yes, the Russians are. This is their state media saying that genuinely that Venezuela's in good hands. This is in December. Venezuela's in good hands because Russia will take care of their security and will motivate Trump to be afraid of them so that he'll call and make nice with Maduro. Yeah. He forgot that right now Lindsey Graham has more pull with Trump than Vladimir Putin does. And I think maybe it's just because the blackmailed are teaming up against the blackmailer.
Мадуро.
Who's translating this and is it accurate? Regina, yes, it is accurate. It is from Russia Media Monitor.
А почему? А потому что он понял, что
Because you understand, you can't toy with us, buddy.
сейчас уже
At this point in time, it's simply impossible to lie to us.
обманывая, виляя
While
хвостом,
wagging the tail and plotting some schemes, those times are over.
это время.
We made a decision and wouldn't allow Americans to tear Venezuela apart. How did we do it? At the point in time, movies will be made about it. At some point in time, movies will be made. Books.
Сейчас это
Books will be written about it.
секрет.
For now, it's a big secret we look, I tell you.
Сделано блестяще.
But believe me, it's brilliantly done. It was done by people who got the combat experience and can hypnotize people and have the little men in black and fleshy thing.
которые получили реальный боевой опыт в ходе ведения специального
In the course of the special military operation, it was done in a fantastically cool way. It was very sexy. We left one of our sonic weapons behind, so I hope nobody finds it and uses it, but
заранее, потому что была разведана информация. И подготовились так, что Трамп тык-мык
they prepared in a way that Trump poked them. He brought his fleet and realized it would be sunk. He realized that Venezuela / the Russians would sink our boats that were in the Gulf of Mexico. Right.
2 часа после начала активных
This is so fucking stupid. But it's great because it was a month ago.
боевых действий.
1 to 2 hours started, it simply sink. No missiles would save it. Nothing would be accomplished
Пока штурмовые
until the
действия
ground assault
были
takes place
проведены на той или иной
on a
территории,
certain territory
достигаются
where
цели.
military goals can be achieved. You can't talk about any kind of a military victory.
Сколько угодно забрасывать фабами, пока наши
You can
парни
drop any
не
number of fat
защитят
bombs, but until the guys go through and physically cleanse it, which, by the way, can we just talk about for a second that the Russians talk about areas where they invade as cleansing? Why doesn't this dude have a neck? I'll tell you why. For real. You want to know why? You're Ruski skin. It's because it's fucking freezing in the studio. These guys are always wearing parkas. It's cold. They, like, I don't know if one of them heard the thing about David Letterman always keeping the studio cold for the studio audience, but they don't have an audience. He's just sitting in a giant empty room where they do 60 Minutes, but they just do this radio show. This is the same place Solovyov does his show.
И Трамп, который, как я
As far as I know,
понимаю,
Trump looks at the
смотрит
Telegram channels
телеграм-каналы и смотрит, как
and
идет
watches how far the war is proceeding. He fully understands he stands no chance in Venezuela. Cut to U.S. military started an operation in Venezuela. This is their own footage, by the way. This is literally what they aired. Oops. What? How do you say oops in Russian? Is that Blofeld's kid? Yeah. How about no?
Дональд
Trump published
опубликовал фотографию Николаса Мадуро, который
standing aboard a military ship
военном корабле,
that is currently
который
transporting
сейчас
him shit.
перевозит. А он на корабле или нет? Я что-то не
Is
очень
he on board the
понимаю.
ship or not? I don't quite understand. It doesn't really resemble a ship. I don't believe it.
Корабль, может, корабль, наверное.
I won't try to guess. You just did, shithead.
Не буду гадать. В общем, вот так он выглядит.
Anyway, this is what he looks like.
Закован в наручники.
He's handcuffed.
И уже как бы и
And he no longer resembles a head of state.
главу
That
государства.
he's been
Всё
toppled.
сдули.
Is do you? That's it. Seemingly, if you will,
Казалось бы, Венесуэла.
Venezuela is a country of our genetic interests. What the fucking what? What? Sorry, the Ukrainians are the Nazis again? Can some... Like, I gotta tell you, I'm amazed that I am continually surprised at, like, how awful the Russians have become when they had such a chance. A genetic interest. All right, it's in our cells to want to seize that territory. You sound like Trump in Greenland.
Наших
Ну, если хотите, генетических интересов.
Genetic interests.
Мы там присутствуем, мы дружим с Венесуэлой.
We are present there. We are friends with Venezuela.
У нас
There is a history of our mutual relations.
есть история взаимоотношений.
We'll go for the sexing tourism.
И
What happened today is a challenge.
то, что произошло сегодня, бросает вызов.
But to what and to whom? Well, if it's not to you, then it's not a challenge. What?
Вызов.
What the fuck is genetic interest? He means that, well, you know, again, beyond Ruska Mir, which is the idea that Russia, anywhere a Russian soldier puts his foot is Russian land. So they've been there a bunch. So technically speaking, we got a lot of Russians living over there. They have as much, okay, they think they have as much claim to Venezuela as they do to Ukraine at this point. That's what he means. Is that clear?
Но кому и чему? Вот это очень важно.
But what to whom? It's a very important question. We'll discuss it today. Also, along with how far my head was up my ass a month ago. It's very important. If we're still deluding ourselves, man, Phil Collins is really fallen.
Если мы до сих пор тешим себя
That Americans are our partners and our friends. We're not your partners, and we're not your friends. I'm putting you down and keeping you down until Gans is locked up or dead. And if Gan gets away, you're going to be sorry you ever met me.
друзья.
Let's start watching their hands. Okay, how about this? I just taught a class on how to give the finger. Fuck you, get out.
Давайте следить за руками. Может, 10 раз
We've discussed this 10 times already, and still you assholes are in my comment section, up my asshole.
обсуждали. Америка отстаивает интересы на той территории,
No, we're not. Trump is asserting his interests. We're all just scrambling to figure out what the fuck's going on.
которую она называет
Asserting its interests.
это
Yeah, I agree. No Phil Collins dissing allowed. From far away, he looked like him. So yeah, that was where the joke was. We love Phil Collins around here.
наш задний двор. И она считает, что Венесуэла
They think Venezuela is their backyard. Now, we had this conversation about how, you know, that there was going to be this trade between Russia and us where you keep Ukraine, we'll keep Venezuela, and this was the deal. This is garbage, by the way. Like, that's nonsense. Didn't happen. Not happening. Silly. But it's interesting how this keeps coming up.
это их задний двор.
Yeah, Blofeld and Voldemort fucked. Yeah.
И Мексика,
И
их задний двор, и Колумбия, и Канада, и Гренландия. И им абсолютно все равно, кто и что.
They could not care less who will say what.
Их волнует
They only care about American security.
американская безопасность,
And
американская
the American economy. And
экономика, Америка прежде всего.
apparently not. Apparently we're spending more to rebuild the Venezuelan oil industry than we are spending on drilling in the United States. So, yeah.
Точка. И если на пути Америки будет стоять Россия, она раздавит и нас. Ну, попытается, понятно.
Well, they will try. No one will allowing them to do this.
Никто им этого сделать не даст. Но вопрос другой, что она
But the thing
полезет,
is,
она
they will
уже
creep
полезет.
into it. They already are. Well, Trump is a creep. Okay, points you. Broken clock moment.
Делаются заявления.
Statements are being made.
Призвал
Russia's foreign ministry called on Americans
Николаса Мадуро, его супругу.
to free Nicolas Maduro and his spouse. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. We'll drop what we're doing about Renee Good and we'll go protect Nicolas Maduro. There already was a reaction to
На
this.
это есть уже соответствующая реакция.
Yeah, obviously you just saw my middle finger.
Трамп не исключает помилование.
Trump does not rule out pardoning Maduro and his wife, according to sources at the White House. What? According to Russian sources in the White House, Trump is not ruling out pardoning Maduro?
Источники в Белом доме, окружение
According to sources close to the current president.
президента. По их словам,
In the future, they can be handed over to third countries. Russia. What's he going to do? Bunk with fucking Assad and whoever else? Oh, Phil's in the background. Look at that. and he's hold on. Let me get him in here. He made it. I can't believe it. I'm so excited. Hold on. Let's swap this out. This is a extra special treat. Phil gets here just in time for me to. Let's see. Edit the text. I don't know why the window goes up there, but it's crazy. Whoops. Quit it. That's annoying. Almost there. We'll bring Phil in on this guy. And I gotta say, Phil, you look chilly, brother. There you are. Welcome to the
I
show.
can't stay long. Can't stay
Understood.
long. I'm now over. I think we're about 16 hours without power. And so I'm reserving my battery power as best I can.
Well, thank you for hopping in here.
Well, that's why I wanted to hop in, just briefly to say, look, we got candles, and I still have some battery power, but I don't know how long it's going to last.
Right.
So I need to reserve it,
Right.
which is why I can't really stay that long.
That's cool.
I don't know how much longer this is going to go on. It's
Right.
minus 15 degrees outside.
Yeah.
They've set up heating stations and power stations around the city. The mayor is warning people, if you can get to somewhere else, get to somewhere else, because we don't know how much longer this is going to go on.
Right.
The Russians keep bombarding us with like very strong attacks. They're using hypersonic missiles. They're targeting specifically the electrical system, the heating system. Many of the buildings within Kiev are centrally heated, so entire buildings go without heating sometimes, and that's the situation I'm in right now. My
Right.
building doesn't have any heat. So I'm relying again on candles and battery power. So I can't really. I
Yeah.
wish I could stay
Well,
and chat about things, but I did want to jump on
I appreciate
and
it.
just say, look, it sucks here, but we're not going to let the Russian pricks um, uh, beat us.
Yeah.
So Kev's gonna stand strong. I don't know. I don't know the future of the show. This is going to affect the show, significantly,
Uh-huh.
because I won't be able to schedule
Sure.
guests, or when I'll be able to get onto high speed internet and things like that. So
Upload. Right.
it's going to have to change from a more structured, release schedule to just catch as catch can, which kind of sucks because I like the regularity of it.
Right.
But we're gonna stick it out. It's
Yeah.
fuck the Russians.
Yeah, seriously. All right, save your battery power, and we will talk on Saturday.
I
Hopefully,
gotta
we'll
go.
find a window in that. Love you,
Hopefully,
brother.
yeah.
Yeah,
Ukrainian civil engineers are amongst the best in the world. I
yeah,
have every faith that they're going to work real hard to get our power back on. It could happen in any minute, or it could be hours. So I'm
right.
sorry I can't stay and discuss like the situation.
Sure.
Aside from just telling you the circumstances that I'm living in, alongside millions of other people in this city, and it's because of the fucking Russians. And if we don't do something about it, if we don't stand up to these pricks,
Yeah,
then it's this kind of stuff will be happening everywhere.
agreed.
They're not going to stop. So we're going to hold strong, and don't worry about me. I'll be okay. I have that luxury. Many Ukrainians don't.
Right.
Many Ukrainians are going for days and days and days without power. So, and this is a particularly harsh winter, and the Russians are doing this on purpose.
Right.
So, I'm gonna hop off. I'm sorry, Hal. I'll
Yeah,
try
no
and be
worries.
here for the entire hour on Saturday, and catch as catch can, as I say.
Appreciate
I'll
it.
try and
Yeah.
update about the show, and maybe we can be more flexible about when I can hop on and when I can't, depending
Yes.
on the prediction of power. But don't worry about me. It's
Yeah, if
not
you find
about me. It's
if
about
you
the entire Western world.
agreed, and if you've got a window and you're like, hey, we were gonna have power for 6 hours because they got us up and running or whatever, and you want to hop on, then just message me or message through Andrea, and we'll coordinate it and make it happen so you can we can
Sorry,
hop
it's
on
going to
then.
have to be like that,
That's
Hal.
totally great.
It's just going to
Absolutely,
have to be like that because
nothing to be sorry for.
we can't predict this stuff.
Right.
So
Okay.
hopefully, at any second, the electricity could come back on, and if it does, I'll reach out to you directly.
Yeah.
Get me a better. Would you ask Andrea to please relay to me a better way to DM you?
Yes.
So I can if I get 15 minutes and I
Yes.
can hop on,
You got it.
then I'll do it. So
Yeah.
we're not giving up. We're not giving
Well,
up.
I think you have my
Ukraine is
phone number, so
stronger
you
than
can
this.
you can.
I think I have it somewhere, maybe on
Okay,
my
yeah.
American phone, which I
Yeah.
rarely use when
Right.
I'm over here in Ukraine. But regardless, this is just how it's going to have to be.
That's totally
And
understandable.
we're not quitting. We're not quitting, and they're not going to break us.
That's
They're
right.
not going to break us.
Thank you, brother.
They're not.
Okay, stay
All right.
warm, save your power.
Brother,
We'll talk
sorry, I
on
gotta
Saturday.
hop off. Yep.
Okay.
We or catch as catch can.
Yes. All right, there he goes. Cheers. Oh, thank you. Okay. Huh? Summer just walked in and saw my setup, the new version of the layout, and I'm still working on it, but it's way better. Thanks. Yeah, Phil's got no power, so it's 15 degrees below zero there,
Oh shit.
and he was just able to pop on for a second.
To tell you he's alive.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not good. Bless his heart. But he managed to do it. I just didn't want him to use up all of his battery power that he has doing the show, and so hopefully he'll be all right on Saturday. Okay, I'll be done in a few minutes. Love you.
Okay.
Yep. How was your workout? Excellent. She work you?
Yeah.
Did you make it hurt?
Huh?
Did she make it hurt?
It was a lot.
It was. Okay, I will be prepared to bring you things while you're convalescing. Right, love you, ladies and gentlemen. Summer, she's she just came from the gym, so she wasn't making a visual appearance. But God bless Philip Ittner and what he's going through. And I gotta say this, this whole Trump thing of just thinking that this was going to be the easy one, and he was going to solve it in the first 24 hours, and I said maybe, and he was just saying it would be easy. I could solve this before I'm even sworn in. One phone call, right? We heard it over and over and over again, and now he's like, I thought this was going to be easy. It's apparently not. And then again, Armenia, Azerbaijan, or these or India and Pakistan, which have these dust ups all the fucking time. That he somehow settled these wars. It's just stupid. It's just dumb. Quit it. Maggots, knock it off. You know better. I hope you do. If you can wipe your ass and tie your shoes, and I don't mean it at the same time. You can figure out that he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, and why his settling of Gaza is that we're going to own it. That we are now in charge of Venezuela. That, how many of these? First of all, he doesn't give a damn about Sudan because he knows it's not going to end anytime soon, and his buddies in the UAE are paying for it. Yeah. Let's see. There you go. So let me show you something about oil markets real quick, if I may. Let's see if I can squeeze this in here. It's going to be a different page. I'm going to set up my little comms window. I'm going to move it up here. I got to rearrange where these windows are so they're all at the same spot. Russia was unable to sell 35 million barrels of oil due to Trump's sanctions. And these are congressional sanctions, but whatever. This is the Bloomberg article on Russian crude cargoes pile up on tankers as deliveries falter. So there are these boats floating in the fucking ocean that are full of oil. and nobody wants it. The last time we were in a situation like this, it was fucking COVID. Like Trump puts this Venezuelan oil back up on the market, and then they start flowing, at the level they are, and then eventually the idea that the oil futures are going to take a giant shit because eventually they're going to end up. I don't know. There's too much oil. We're 3.5 million barrels a day overproduction right now. There aren't those 10 million cars or whatever the fuck that would, make that kind of an output necessary that are going to suddenly come online someplace. They were counting on it in China. It's not going to happen. Yeah, I'll tell you why they call it the Russian Dark Fleet, because at the bottom of the ocean, no one can see your ship. It's kind of adorable that they, like, the Dark Fleet makes it sound cool. But in reality, it's just surplus oil floating around on goddamn barges. Tankers hauling Russia's crude are piling up at sea with nowhere to go as Moscow struggles to revive the Indian market that saved its oil trade when European buyers turned away after the Ukraine invasion. At least 12 vessels full of Urals crude are anchored off the southern coast of Oman, and some have been there since mid-December, more arriving almost every day. The value of Moscow's exports fell to $950 million a week in 28 days to January 11th, sliding by 2% from the revised figure from the period of January 4th, with average prices falling for a 15th straight week. Average prices falling for a 15th straight week. Does anybody know what the break-even is on Russian oil currently? What is it? At this point, it's probably higher than it was. The break-even price. I'm going to go with, it used to be $60 a barrel. It's trading at $52. If they can get that for it. Obviously, it's stacking up, so at some point, they're going to sell it for $30. This might be just like they've got enough stores from other sources so they can wait till Russia just guts it just so the ships can move. See if I can find that in the like the oil prices fluctuate all over the place. $54. It's trading. Beg your pardon. Yeah. Fiscal budget. Yeah. Okay. The budget break even around is. Okay, so the fiscal break even is $60 to $80 a barrel, more at the top end, and they're going to be lucky if they get half that. The country shipped 3.42 million barrels a day in 4 weeks to January 11th, according to vessel tracking data compiled by Bloomberg. That's about 450,000 barrels a day from a pre-Christmas peak. Though just 30,000 barrels a day lower than the period in January 4th, blah, blah, blah. This is Bloomberg and oil markets talking like they talk about, the non-political view of where this stuff, of the importance of this stuff. But this isn't going to change anytime soon for these assholes. And if there's a major step forward where they're allowed to sell more oil, or Iran gets toppled and Trump decides to let Iran start selling oil, because that's exactly how you're going to rebuild it. If Trump bombs Iran, first of all, the Saudis will see it as a betrayal, because Iran's oil will come back online, is the theory. He wants to do what he did in Venezuela, or what he thinks he's doing in Venezuela, in Iran. Let's just be clear. That's what Iran is about. Yes, it benefits Israel because they're the biggest geopolitical threat in their area, and if they were turned over, it would help them. Sure, but does that mean Trump is in the pocket of Israel and the Mossad? No, he's a self-interested dickhead, and he always has been. Is that a plus? Yes. Would it stop him? No. So what Trump wants to do is he thinks The secret to getting prices down is to flood the world with oil. That's honestly. That's the goal. That's the plan. Kushner will talk him out of it. I don't think so, Janelle, and I'll tell you why. Hold on. I don't think Kushner will talk him out of it because Witkoff is one of the people that's talking him into it. And ultimately, Kushner, the security problem with Gaza going forward, beyond the obvious, is that Iran is the main financial backer, and Russia, of Hamas and ISIS-linked groups that will cause permanent fighting in that area. If you want to bring that to an end and stabilize Gaza over time, like they apparently want to do, and turn it into a real estate venture, that means the regime in Iran has to go. Because they're the main financiers of it. That's why I think they can't talk him out of it at this point. So honestly, this is the direction. There's, hold on one second. Let's see. Yeah. I'm trying to. Yeah. And this is the other thing. Okay, so this is where you can tell. This is also just breaking, so bear with me. U.S. will halt issuing immigrant visas for dozens of countries. I'm sure we'll all be surprised which ones they are. We'll pause issuing immigrant visas for people from 75 countries, including Brazil, Somalia, Iran, targeting specifically foreigners who say they could require public assistance while living in the U.S. I mean, this is kind of classist horseshit that they've been pushing for a long time. But the move applies only to people seeking to live and work permanently in the U.S., not tourists or temporary workers, according to a person, because Trump has just hired a bunch of fucking temporary workers, like 2,600 of them at his vineyard and at his clubs. The administration has already imposed stricter vetting rules for foreigners and would-be residents over the past year, layering new restrictions into a visa screening system, blah, blah, blah. Visa pause, which will begin January 21st, is expected to hit family-based immigration hardest, unless you're related to Melania, in which case, come on in. Affecting spouses, children, and other immediate relatives of primarily U.S. citizens who would otherwise be eligible for permanent residency. They've been at this for a while. They're going to announce this. This is red meat for the maggots. That's what this is. The move is meant to end the abuse of America's immigration system by those who would extract wealth from the American people. Right. So the administration claims the immigrants that drain the government resources run counter to studies from the Cato Institute, the American Immigration Council, and other groups that have found immigrants use less benefits than U.S.-born Americans. I mean, because there's less of them, and per capita they use less of them, but it's a constant rollover thing, and believe me, they don't care about that. They don't care about the facts of that. I love how when we were talking to Chic Canfora earlier, it occurred to me that when she was talking about the media as the fourth estate, one of the things that really stood out was that what is the main weapon of the, quote, fourth estate? It can't legislate anything. It can't adjudicate anything. It can't. It has no weapon of force. You can't be forced to read anything or pass along an article or any of that stuff. So what is its actual function when engaged in criticism specifically? Shame and embarrassment. Now, both of those rely on the public to agree. That if a newspaper came out and went, this person's a fraud, and everyone went, oh my dear God, this person's a fraud, Marge, that the reaction was relatively ubiquitous when there were fewer news sources and people felt like they had more trust in it. The Russians, the Chinese, and the Trump crowd have been attacking the media in the United States, even as the right-wing media groups that shit on them all the time source them nonstop, always quoting the New York Times, always quoting the Washington Post, always quoting NBC News and CBS, right? When they want a real story, when they want to show that they're doing a real story, without fail. And so, but the strength of media is only in how powerful it is to motivate the public to actually do something. And we went through a window of this, and I feel like we're coming out of it, where podcasters, especially the Andrew Sullivan, Rogan crowd, had an unbalanced amount of persuasive power compared to their belief in facts and reality. And so at some point, we are like, I feel like we're edging out of that. I feel like, for all this talk about nobody trusts the legacy media anymore, the reality is that's exactly where you go when something real is going down. You might check Twitter because breaking stuff happens on social media, but if you really want to find out what the fuck is going on, you turn on CNN or MSNBC or something like that, and you wait for the real details to come out. China banned gas scooters, then everyone bought an EV scooter. Now China's stealing the EV scooters and selling them with the Chinese registration still. Yeah, well, believe me. We should get it. I need to do a full China recap very soon. But anyways, I will see you guys this afternoon. Increasingly, I want people to focus on what are our material responsibilities. Both, for those of us that marched in No Kings, for those of us that marched against the Iraq War, for those of us that walked, in every AIDS walk in the country at least once, often twice, that that activism requires activity. And the biggest, single most important act of activism is voting. You are not an activist if you don't vote, period. You're a political operative or a social operative. The phrase social justice warrior was overused and bandied about willy-nilly quite a bit. But let me tell you, there is no such thing as social justice. There is only justice. The social stuff is one-to-one, it's personal, it's not social media justice. You have to be a good person. That's the only thing you can do to change the social tide. You have to find a way to be the bigger person, the smarter person, the person who keeps their wits about them in an argument, in a debate. You have to raise, on a social level, you have to be higher than the current argument. Otherwise, you're not going to move it at all. But when it comes to actually doing something that materially will affect other people, that's not just conversation and whinging, it involves voting. And at this point, we specifically need Democrats in office by volume. Nothing else will put the fear in Republicans more than that. Nothing. Someone said, I hope Democrats don't sign off on funding for DHS. It's the Department of Homeland Security. It doesn't just cover ICE and immigration. It covers all kinds of anti-terrorism stuff. Of course they have to pass it. That's how Trump gets away with this shit. It matters who's in charge. Jesus Christ. That's exactly what I'm talking about. It must pass bills that have all kinds of attachments where people, where the Republicans hold SNAP benefits or food stamps or fucking school lunches, hostage. We're always going to lose that fight. Democrats, we're always going to lose that. You know why? Because we're going to cry uncle because someone will get hurt. Republicans will always win the game of chicken that involves cutting off funding for children and sick people and immigrants and asylum seekers and minorities. They'll always win that game of chicken because they don't give a fuck. You can't negotiate that part away. You have to win by attrition in terms of the sheer number of votes. Period. Nothing else will change this. And anybody who tells you different, that I need to be motivated to vote for a Democrat this time around. If you don't have plenty of motivation, then you're for all this shit. Just say it. You like the roundups. You like the tariffs crashing the economy. You like that you're comfortable with whatever your level of affordability is. So if it fucks a bunch of other people, you don't really care, and they should feel some economic pain because we should have some sort of capitalism needs to die. So if these people have to go with it, sucks to be you, pal. The like upper class dem socks can go fuck themselves when they're trying to say that change should happen on the backs of poor people. No, the hard work, the thing you quote unquote fight for, mental inch you take every time you pass a bill or you protect a law or you or quite frankly you charge someone in government with a crime of corruption. Every one of those steps has meaning. Yammering about going down fighting on the floor because you made a fucking TikTok bitching about shit on the floor when your bill never got to the floor because you don't have the votes, it's meaningless. It is devoid of worth, period. You want to hear Democrats say abolish ICE? Then you're wasting your time. Here's what you want to hear. You want to hear Republicans say abolish ICE because they're so afraid of all the people that voted for Democrats. Again, the idea that Democrats aren't working hard enough or aren't pushing back when they have no power because the voters decided to take it away is silly. It's childish. It's wrong. It is morally and ethically wrong. Stop shooting yourself in the foot. Stop holding people's feet to the fire when they don't even have the votes to bring stuff out of committee. The idea that you would want to... here's the thing. How do politicians have accountability without responsibility? In that they have no ability to respond. Will the Democrats abolish when they're in office? No, they'll run it properly. And they'll purge all the Nazi dickheads that Trump hired. And you'll have immigration and customs enforcement as it's supposed to be done, and not jackbooted groups of like dudes running around with their faces fucking covered, running door to goddamn door. Yes, Cenk and TYT. And everybody who has been brainwashed over the years into thinking that this is a fucking solution. That bitching at your own side when they have no power to institute any of the things you want, as if not only are they, incapable of doing it on some sort of like intellectual level, calling them stupid for not doing something they legally, physically can't do, but also hanging that on them when you've taken their power away. That's the group that removed the power. That's the group. If you need motivation to vote for Democrats in this current circumstance, you're a Republican. Just admit it and move on with it. You're a Republican that's wearing a D jersey because you're so embarrassed. It's round up and ship off anyone that's not white that could vote Democrat is the plan. Regina, that might be part of the plan, but let me tell you something. The other plan is to get all the white people, the white Democrats, to not vote. That's the bigger impact. and to make sure that we don't win anyone over with our actual plans. Like some form of universal health care, whether it's single payer or a mix of single payers from states that you could buy across state lines that will cut, the cost of it in half. Good public schools, good infrastructure, clean water, clean air, law and order, all those kind of things are stuff that Democrats can seize and are natural parts of any kind of civil society. But it matters who runs it. Yeah, this odd utopian ideal. Hey, you're a white Democrat, but I vote. Well, I'm a white Democrat and I vote. But that's what they're afraid of. The Republicans are not worried that we're going to convince minorities to vote our way, and so therefore, if they expunge all the minorities, they'll cut down our vote meaningfully, and we won't be able to win elections. They're afraid we're going to convince, by and large, the white and white Hispanic crowd that they're full of shit. That's what they're afraid of. They want to get rid of the non-whites in the country. That's just part. That's on the checklist. That's been on the honey-do list on their side for a long time. But in our case, like what they're really afraid of is that 65% of the electorate that's white. They're worried we're going to convince more of those folks to come over. And so they've really got to drill down into this. And so if that's what they're trying to do and that's what they're afraid of, then it is our responsibility to convince as many of those people as we possibly can to believe in what we're doing. And every incremental bit of progress we hold on to and we beat our chest about it. Yeah, elections are about winning. This is politics. How you interact with other human beings in your life and whether you step on your own tongue is not something that can be legislated. When anybody tells me about sort of the social order aspects of things being legislated beyond the legal rights of someone, period, end of story, where, around language or recognition of status or belief systems or whatever, that kind of stuff. It's the same thing as when Republicans say, when you ask them, what are you going to do about getting test scores up for school children, getting our reading proficiency up? And they always go, we need more parental involvement. And I go, can you legislate more parental involvement? Are you going to throw more parents in jail? Are you going to put a minder in the home paid for by the government? Are you going to have social workers that interview every child? Are your parents helping you study? Are you going to do that? Fuck no, you're not going to do that. So shut up. If you can't legislate it, I don't need to hear it from a politician. What I need to do is, what I need to hear from them is, when there is a plan or when there is a problem, a potential solution for it, and a push for those solutions. So there you go. All right, I'm gonna go. I ended up going a little bit long after Chic had a hard time getting on the show in the beginning. I thought this might even cut us a little short, but it was a good show today. I think all right overall. Wouldn't you agree? Chat room, what do you think? A little bit of hard truths, a little bit of let's see. Let's go over all the things that we discussed today. We obviously Nixon was a drunk and yelling at Jews in the hallway, and we should start off there, and it kind of linked that to Trump being sort of the Timu Nixon / Timu Antichrist. And the idea that we have a moral responsibility to adhere to the facts in any circumstance, because if we do not, it will be weaponized against us. Also, I think we all recognize that it's very important that on a political level, if we don't handle the most important issues, if we don't stand up and say, this is obviously a problem and something must be done, then that problem will fester, and someone awful will come along and say, I've got the solution, right? If you don't deal with the border as a Democrat as directly as you can and make a show of it, then Republicans are going to come in and turn it into a cruelty zone. If you don't handle criminal law and, like criminals getting punishment, and you allow, because out of some sort of misplaced charity or this idea that the criminals are more important than the victims, doesn't mean that's never going to be handled by somebody. It's never going to be changed by somebody. It's going to be changed by somebody who is the most dangerous, awful ogre in the world will come in and tell you they've got the solution. And that's what populism is. A populist will come in and go, I'll solve the problem they won't solve because they're tap dancing around it. And they'll be, if you don't solve it, Stephen Miller will. There are no partisan problems. They're just partisan solutions. So if you see a problem and it exists, get on it. Don't be afraid to address it. Because you can do it with a gentle and kind heart and with wisdom, as opposed to this bull in the china shop horse shit that we see from the Trump crowd. So, end of the show notes. There we go. And that felt pretty good, I guess. But I will see you guys later on. But again, take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. And fuck Trump. Hit that like, share the show. See you this afternoon at 3 o'clock. Subscribe.